This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
Coronavirus spreads to more African countries as governments impose more prevention and containment measures. On the international scene, the United States is now the third hardest hit country. Italy, coronavirus deaths surge as cases top 341,000 globally. This is CGTN. Welcome to Africa Live with me, Beatrice Marshall, in Nairobi. Also coming up on this broadcast, Nigeria stares at another devaluation of its naira as falling oil prices threaten the currency. In sports, we meet the trio of Egyptian brothers aiming to leave their mark in France. We begin with the latest COVID-19 figures on the continent. Over 1,000 COVID-19 cases have been reported in 43 African countries so far. That's according to the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Let's now take a look at the numbers by region. Northern Africa has the highest number of confirmed cases. Cases in Egypt have jumped to 327 from 294. The country has also registered 4 more deaths. Algeria now has 201 cases of the coronavirus. Tunisia registered 15 new cases, raising the total to 75. In Western Africa, Senegal, with 67 cases, has the highest number of cases in the region. Togo's cases, on the other hand, have risen to 16. Nigeria has 30 confirmed cases, up from 26. In Eastern Africa, Kenya has confirmed 8 new cases. This brings its total number of coronavirus cases to 15. Madagascar has also seen cases rise from 3 to 12. In Central Africa, Cameroon has the highest number in the Great Lakes region, with 58 people infected. The Democratic Republic of Congo also saw a rise in cases, with 30 now confirmed. The country has also reported a second death from the virus. In Southern Africa, Mauritius has just announced 6 new cases about 30 minutes ago. South Africa remains the worst affected in that region, with 274 cases. Mozambique has just announced its first case. To Ethiopia now, where masks, test kits and protective suits donated by Chinese billionaire and co-founder of Alibaba, Jack Ma, have arrived in the country's capital, Addis Ababa. The first batch of 103 tons of donations contains testing kits, masks and other essential materials. They will be distributed across the continent in a 5-day period. Ethiopia's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed will oversee the distribution of the supplies to other African countries. Jack Ma has also pledged to provide online training material for clinical treatments. CGTN's Girum Chala caught up with John Nkengasong, the Director General of the Africa CDC. Mr. Nkengasong was on the airport tarmac as the donations were being uploaded. He spoke on how the donations were a game changer in Africa's fight against the COVID-19 pandemic.
Dr. John, thank you so much on behalf of CGTN. China has delivered its promises, Jack Ma Foundation to be much more particular, and the Ethiopian Prime Minister. How game changer this delivery is going to be in the fight against COVID-19 in Africa?
I think this is going to be a huge game changer on the continent. You know, globally, the challenge to fight corona across the world has been in 2 areas: lack of commodities in the areas of personal protective equipment and diagnostics all across the world. So with this huge initiative where over 1 billion tests will be distributed across the continent, is truly going to be a game changer. Where over millions of personal protective equipment will be provided across the continent, is definitely going to be a game changer. We truly applaud the leadership of the Prime Minister of Ethiopia, Dr. Abiy, and the Jack Ma Foundation for this wonderful initiative and leadership here.
Dr. John, Ethiopian Airlines CEO just told me that starting from tomorrow, using their passenger planes and cargo planes, these medical kits will be delivered at the doorsteps of each and every African country. What do you expect African countries to do using these medical kits so that the COVID-19 spread can be in a halt somewhere?
The Ethiopian Airlines CEO is absolutely right, and at this point I would like to sincerely thank the leadership and support of the Ethiopian Airlines. Without Ethiopian Airlines commitment to distributing this, it will be extremely challenging, even if we have the reagents and materials in Ethiopia. So we applaud that. We have to be very clear that Africa is in the dawn of the pandemic. This is our morning. China is in the sunset, and Europe is in the midday of that. So we cannot say that Africa has a good situation now. We are just waking up. We have to work very actively to blunt this virus so that there is no outburst of it into our community, so that we can contain it slowly. Otherwise, we'll be terribly overwhelmed because our health systems are extremely fragile.
Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta has announced an initiative that will enable Kenyans and students in particular to get cheaper internet access at a time when many of them are working, studying from home. The president said the government had allowed Google Loon balloons to access Kenyan airspace and provide the cheaper internet in a partnership with Telkom Kenya. Kenya has also banned all international flights in a move to curb the epidemic. Meanwhile, the government has also announced a total closure of all bars and places of worship and ordered that only close family members be allowed at funerals. Weddings have also been suspended to prevent the spread of COVID-19 after 8 new cases were confirmed on Sunday. This brings the total number of coronavirus cases in Kenya to 15.
In the last 72 hours, however, we have received confirmation of an additional 8 cases who have tested positive for coronavirus. This now brings the total number of those who have tested positive to 15. Out of the latest 8 cases, 5 are Kenyans and 3 are foreign nationals. The foreign nationals are 2 French people and 1 Mexican.
To Nigeria now, where most churches in the commercial city of Lagos have shut their gates to worshippers. This follows a government directive asking religious institutions to limit their gatherings to not more than 20 persons. It is part of measures by the government to curb the spread of COVID-19, which has seen a spike in the number of confirmed cases in recent days. Here is CGTN's Deji Badmos with more on that story.
This road is usually packed with cars on both sides every Sunday morning, and it's because of this church. But this Sunday, it's a different picture. Complying with the directive of the Lagos State government limiting the number of worshippers in churches and mosques to 20, the church has decided to cancel its service altogether.
I've been discovered that it's a global problem, and what everybody is trying to do is to provide solution to whatever that is happening and to protect the lives of the people. The best we could do is to suspend the service and also to keep on praying for every member of the church, wherever they may be, so that they will not be affected. And not this alone, to also pray generally for the entire populace in the country.
And it's not only Christ Apostolic Church. Many other churches in the city also locked up their gates, asking members to pray from home. A few weeks ago, this would have been unimaginable in a deeply religious country as Nigeria. But with 27 confirmed cases of COVID-19 and seemingly counting, authorities say this is going to be the new norm for some time.
I believe that in the course of praying to God, that there's going to be a divine intervention that will bring everything into permanent solution.
And talking about solution, this molecular biologist and clergyman says he and his team of researchers are working on a homegrown one and only require support to complete it.
My proposal is looking at how to actually stop the virus to have its way to the host cell. And if this virus can get inside the cell, before you know, even the natural immune system will mop up the virus. Because the strength of the virus, including that of Ebola virus, is that when they evade the cell and are able to get to the cell, they can degrade the cell, and with that they can multiply easily in the cell, and that can make it deadly. So that is where our research is looking towards. And we have quite a number of things that we are proposing to run the research that can eventually be formulated as drugs.
His proposal sounds quite exciting, but without the needed funding, it might continue to remain in the cooler. And while the country hopes for a scientific solution to the COVID-19 pandemic, it is also praying for a divine one. Before now, many Nigerians had been going to churches and mosques to pray away COVID-19 from the country. They would now have to do so from their homes. It's something many religious people in this country never imagined, but it's a reality that they now have to live with, at least until COVID-19 is fully contained here. Deji Badmos, CGTN, Lagos, Nigeria.
Meanwhile, Beijing reported 50 new imported cases on Monday morning. 336,000 people have been infected in over 180 countries and regions. Italy has the most deaths, reporting almost 5,500. Nearly 60,000 have been infected, including reportedly nearly 5,000 medical staff. Spain is the second hardest hit country in Europe with more than 28,000 infections. Germany has over 24,000 cases. The United States reports over 35,000 cases. President Donald Trump has approved requests from the states of New York and Washington to declare disasters. Iran has reported over 1,600 deaths. And the death toll in South Korea has passed 100 with more than 8,900 cases. China registered 39 new cases on Sunday, all from passengers arriving from overseas. Hubei province reports no new case, confirmed or suspected. Nearly 90% of patients in China have now recovered. As mentioned, the United States is now the third hardest hit country. As cases surge, a $1 trillion economic rescue package met resistance in the Senate. But states across the country are now taking their own measures. CGTN's Toby Muse has more from Washington, D.C.
President Donald Trump has announced that he will activate the National Guard in states like New York, California and others so they can carry out missions with local authorities in order to try to curb the spread of the coronavirus.
Today I'm announcing action to help New York, California and Washington ensure that the National Guard can effectively respond to this crisis. The National Guard, these are tremendous people. They're fully on alert. We've signed what we had to sign, and it's been activated.
President Trump also talked about the amount of help the federal government had given to different states across the country delivering medical supplies. While the White House's message was consistent of "we are in control," voices from across the country painted a much grimmer picture. The Federal Reserve Chief of St. Louis said unemployment could hit 30% and economic output could drop by 50% in the next quarter. New York is now the hardest hit state in the United States, and Governor Andrew Cuomo is requesting that the federal government order factories across the country to produce urgently needed medical supplies.
I think the federal government should order factories to manufacture masks, gowns, ventilators, the essential medical equipment that's going to make the difference between life and death. It's not hard to make a mask or PPE equipment or a gown, but you need companies to do it.
The governor said that states are finding that private companies are massively increasing the price of these much needed medical supplies, often playing states off against each other. Vice President Mike Pence announced that he had tested negative for the coronavirus. There had been a scare yesterday when it was announced that one of his staffers had tested positive. He immediately announced he would be tested. But the first US Senator, Rand Paul, has tested positive. He's a Republican. He announced on Twitter that he was doing fine but was now in quarantine. But his announcement set off a minor scandal within the Senate because there are reports that people had seen him in the gym and using the swimming pool earlier on Sunday. Now, his announcement, a number of other senators said that they were going into voluntary quarantine in order to see if they had contracted the virus from Senator Paul. Toby Muse, CGTN, Washington.
The death toll soared in Italy by another 651 people on Sunday. More people have died there compared to any other country. Laura Silvia Battaglia reports from Milan.
Italian Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte spoke to the nation. He said this is the most difficult crisis the country is facing after the Second World War. The measures are basically tightening the previous one in a very strict way. That means that all the supplies chain, all the production will be shut down except for the health sector and the agricultural sector, and for transportation, but seems not in the north. That means that the transportation maybe will not functioning in next few or maybe more days. There are different nations that are giving a huge help. First of all, China, with a lot of help in providing masks. From the next week, we will see a huge number of masks that will be given to hospitals and pharmacies. But not only from this point of view, the help of the doctors and nurses and people who are experts in different pandemics. There are also doctors from Cuba, number of 300 in an hospital in Cremona. They're coming from Cuba, and all of them are experts in the Ebola pandemic. Plus, we can say that the government issued a call for 300 volunteers, doctors, volunteers in the civil protection. The Italians that have answered to the call are 700, but of course, the help of other nations is absolutely welcome in this difficult moment for the nation.
Spain is stepping up its measures to try to control the outbreak. Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez says it's the most dramatic period in his country since the Spanish Civil War, when 500,000 people died. Our correspondent Rahul Patak reports from Madrid.
It's being reported that Spain will extend its national lockdown for another 15 days. So that will kick in after the current lockdown ends, meaning that this country will be in effective shutdown till April the 13th, which includes the entire Easter holiday period here in Spain. And for this country, that is an absolutely huge deal. Now, field hospitals, military field hospitals, have also been set up around the country to help with the crisis. There's one in Madrid that has 5,500 beds that's being set up near the airport, and that's located at the same convention centre that hosted the recent UN Climate Change Summit back in December. All hotels are shut, of course. Some have been converted into temporary hospital accommodation. Retired doctors, and at the other end of the spectrum, medical students. Both of them have been drafted in to help with the healthcare system, and there's a sense that this country is on a real war footing, if you like. And in fact, the Spanish Prime Minister, Pedro Sanchez, in an address to the nation on Saturday, said that this was the most dramatic period that his country had experienced since the Spanish Civil War, which claimed the lives of 500,000 people back in the 1930s. And he said that the worst is still to come. Rahul Pathak, CGTN, Madrid.
You're watching Africa Live. Still ahead on the program, we'll be looking at the implications of the coronavirus in Africa and how the continent is dealing with it. And later, how the virus is driving up ginger and garlic prices in Ethiopia.
Each day, there are millions of stories. Each one can open new perspectives, new possibilities. Wherever you look, we are there to see, discover, explore. We put the pieces together to find what really matters to you, all around the world, all around the clock. Our reporters are at home across the globe. From our headquarters in Beijing and production centers in Washington, Nairobi, and London, China Global Television Network. Stories from across the globe, reaching people across the globe. CGTN. See the difference.
For a look at some economic details of the country. The country's foreign currency reserves.
With a dedicated and diverse team of anchors, CGTN now brings Africa to the palm of your hand.
I'm Penina Karibe in the heart of Nairobi, which is bustling.
From everyday heroes to the continent's most powerful figures, we bring their voices to you.
We haven't changed. And this is something most of us are very excited about.
we bring you news that's changing perspectives. News that brings Africa to the world. CGTN. See the difference. How will your world change today? What happens here? What happens there? Or what you make happen for yourself? If it matters to you, it matters to us too. Your stories are the stories that need to be told. Africa Live. Find your voice.
Now, as we continue our coverage on the coronavirus in Africa, CGTN has prepared a series of features that explore the implications of COVID-19 in Africa and how efforts by the continent to mitigate the spread. CGTN's Lindim Togana joins us now with our first installment.
Welcome to CGTN Africa's special series, Africa Battles COVID-19. Since it first emerged in December last year, the virus, now officially known as COVID-19, continues to spread across the globe. Though its emergence was slow in Africa, today the continent's health systems are being put to the test as COVID cases continue to shoot up. CGTN Africa takes you on a journey to understand COVID-19 and its impact on Africa. COVID-19 has caused panic. We take a look at how this outbreak evolved into a global pandemic in just a short space of time.
Coronaviruses are a family of viruses that cause infections in animals and birds, but they can be transferred to humans, and their effects can be mild conditions like common colds. But there are cases where these viruses cause severe respiratory illnesses that can be deadly or cause long-term effects on humans. They include the current strain of coronavirus called COVID-19, which has put the whole world on edge. The current COVID-19 outbreak was first reported in the Chinese city of Wuhan in late December 2019. Just 1 month later, on January 24th, the city of over 10 million people was on lockdown. But what jolted the world was the emergence of infection clusters outside China. A surge of cases in Lombardy, one of Italy's most economically productive regions, signaled the arrival of the virus in Europe. The World Health Organization issued multiple warnings on the threat of COVID-19.
We're deeply concerned about the increasing number of countries reporting cases, especially those with weaker health systems. However, this epidemic is a threat for every country, rich and poor. Even the high-income countries should expect surprises.
But for many African nations, their capacity to handle the coronavirus has yet to be fully tested.
We have guidance that we have shared with member states, and most member states are following this guidance, and therefore preparedness is increasing, not as fast as we would want, but preparedness is increasing in Africa.
On February 14th, North Africa became the first African region to confirm a coronavirus case. In a matter of weeks, over half the continent's 54 countries reported index cases.
It'll have huge impacts on travel. It'll have a negative impact also on our economy, which, as we all know, is in a very, very precarious situation. We will continue to ensure that we handle this matter with the necessary care and capability that it requires.
I urge Nigerians not to panic, but to allow experts in the public health space to guide the response in a calculated, scientific manner.
Nous savons tous.
We all know that if drastic preventive and control measures are not taken urgently, the economic, social, and even security consequences of the epidemic could be felt on a very large scale, and our dear continent, Africa, is particularly at risk given its relative fragile health system.
The increasing number of infections and deaths globally has seen the World Health Organization declare the COVID-19 outbreak a pandemic. The announcement was made on March 11, 2020, less than 3 months after Wuhan identified its initial cases.
We have therefore made the assessment that COVID-19 can be characterized as a pandemic.
Many countries are still waiting to confront their first cases, and as global infection rates continue to climb, governments around the world are emulating China's sweeping measures to contain the coronavirus. Wilkisa Nyabo, CGTN.
In wake of COVID-19 in Africa, cities like Nairobi have taken the initiative of educating the masses on the coronavirus, its effects, and details how their governments have set up preparedness mechanisms to ensure safety and protection of the population. And in this particular public forum, the safety measures were key.
Thank you very much. So we are here today because of the interest that COVID-19 has generated.
In attendance were members of the public and experts drawn from different backgrounds, including infectious diseases and immunology.
So there's aggressive measures in containing this virus, while at the same time trying to pop up economy so that they do not go into a recession. So, Kenya, we've seen what's happening out there. What should be our response as a country?
My questions are with regard to stigma and the Chinese community in particular. Are there any efforts to maybe coping strategies and finding out how the Chinese community is handling the whole issue?
We need to understand that it's important for us to let people have, to respect people's spaces, to respect them, but also for us to know that if we have a problem, we can be able to go and we have the confidence to present ourselves by removing that stigma. But of course, a lot of information, education, sensitization is important to help allay this kind of stigma, because it's lack of proper information that sometimes also creates the stigma.
But as new COVID-19 cases continue to emerge, concerns are growing about the continent's ability to handle the disease.
So you find people have rumors, are spreading rumors about the disease. People are coming up with memes about the disease. And of course, some of them are based on false information. So those kind of information have the potential of creating barriers towards seeking proper health care, because then without the proper information, you don't know what to do. You may end up doing the wrong thing, which may perpetuate the spread of the disease.
For sure, government will have no extra arm to stretch. Already the government will be stretched in terms of the healthcare systems. Here it's a situation whereby we already have other diseases. We have cancer, we have diabetes, we have malaria, AIDS is still there. All these other diseases are still there, and then we have another disease that's going to overshadow each of those previous tensions we've had in the health sector. And then you still want the government to stretch out and provide food for those who will have literally no food, no work, and nowhere to go.
The forum was quite timely as Kenya broke news of its first positive coronavirus case a day later. To contain the virus, the Kenyan government called for indefinite closure of schools and prohibited public and social life.
Some of the measures that we have taken today may cause inconvenience, but I want to assure you that they are designated and designed to ensure that we effectively contain the spread of this deadly virus.
At a time like this, information from reliable sources is key as it can alleviate fears, educate, and create awareness on the situation at hand. Terry Wangari, CGTN, Nairobi, Kenya.
Following the outbreak of COVID-19, misinformation as well as fake news and myths have filled different mediums, causing more panic. In this next story, I followed a Kenyan journalist to discover how they're getting real and authentic information. The coronavirus outbreak has been accompanied by a tide of misinformation. Myths and fake news have flooded social media, causing panic. Well, today we meet a local Kenyan journalist to find out how traditional media is combating misinformation and separating fact from fiction. Let's go inside. Vera Okeo is a senior health and sciences reporter at the Nation Media Group. Being the biggest news house in East Africa, what happens here impacts the region.
So the role of the journalists in the coronavirus outbreak is basically journalists are supposed to educate, inform, but particularly in the middle of an outbreak, your work is supposed to kind of like, first of all, work with public health officials and assure people of their safety. I have a desk that is dedicated to science reporting. I don't worry about meeting any other deadlines except the coronavirus. Oh, so I have two stories. One is about like these emerging diseases, like COVID-19 is an emerging disease. It's like the scientific community is thinking about when are we going to be caught and where's next. Given in mind that UNEP says that every 4 months we discover 16, all over the world, 16 emerging pathogens, mostly viruses. So we're just from the editorial meeting, my story got approved, and now I'm headed to Kenyatta National Hospital. I'm going to meet Dr. Marianne Moreithi, and she's going to talk to me about emerging and re-emerging pathogens, because she deals a lot with those things, and where COVID is an emerging pathogen, and I'm sure there must be others.
Meet Vera, the scientist.
I would like to know from you, in your opinion, even though they're still hypotheses, where do you think this virus came from? And also, in your opinion, what do you think you and your colleagues, the scientific community, may have missed that made this thing become as big as it is?
Where it came from is still under investigation. Right. The hypothesis is it could have been circulating within the animals, right, wildlife, that could not have been detected or had not yet been detected, and that's where our tasks are very important, this virus hunting, looking for these pathogens, but we need to be more rapid in our detection, and after being very rapid in detecting and surveilling, reporting. So we need a whole chain of communication between governments, policy makers, scientists, you, who is very crucial in the clog of all this that's happening, so that we can be able to advise and warn.
Every time I try to cover a story, I have a strategy. I want to make sure that it is diverse in terms of the people I quote, and then research. That is my strong point as a reporter. I would rather you have too much information about a topic than have too little.
Despite her well-researched stories, Vera continues to battle skepticism.
So health reporters have had to, walk through global health governance, geopolitical issues, economic issues, international public debt. So you have to mix all that up and hope that by the end of the day, your reporting is going to bring science to the fore and all those other issues below it, and try to get people to, remove all those things that are clouding their judgment.
Vera's story appears in today's edition of The Daily Nation, and it will be seen by millions across the country. It's a reminder of just how important journalists are in the time of a pandemic, with the capacity to inform and promote changes in social behavior. Responsible reporting can save lives. In today's Voices of the People segment, we take to the streets to gauge how Africans are feeling about the pandemic.
To be honest, I'm not happy about it, because
I think we're going to lose a lot of lives here for people. So I'm not able to.
Okay, we fear about it because I don't know who is sitting next to me. I don't know whether he's having corona or what. I don't know how safety he is. So we are afraid of it, of sitting together in the matatu, because even the fresh air in the matatu, we are not getting.
So we mostly get most of the parts from China. But now, since the coronavirus affected them, they're also facing a very big problem because the factories are not working.
This is the second epidemic. The first was Ebola. Our government put in a lot of effort in containing it over the past 2 years. We hope our leaders will find effective solutions to end coronavirus, because we heard that it kills faster than other infectious diseases.
Well, that's all for today's special coverage. Africa battles COVID-19. Join us again tomorrow as we take a look at how COVID-19 is impacting Africa's transport sector. See you then. Back to you in studio.
Lindy Mtongana there with the first installment of our features looking at the implications of COVID-19 on Africa. Join us again for more on that feature. You're watching Africa Live. It's still ahead on the program. Nigeria stares at another devaluation of its naira as falling oil prices threaten the currency. And MTN in South Africa cuts data costs to help people cope with working from home.
Africa is the nexus of enterprise, and global business will tell you why it matters.
From the mega investment projects to multi-billion-dollar mergers and acquisitions.
Africa today collects, just in terms of revenues from taxes alone, $545 billion a year. If you take 10% of that and you devote it to the energy sector, problem solved.
All this on Global Business, weekdays at this time on CGTN.
Nigeria's economy is going through tough times following the COVID-19 outbreak and a major drop in global oil prices. Experts say the government may need to do more to strengthen the economy and prevent a possible recession. Our correspondent Philly Haza reports now from Abuja.
This digital printing business in Abuja is run by Uloma Ogbonna. Although it's rather busy here today, Uloma says she may be out of business anytime from now as the cost of production is gradually becoming unsustainable.
If we cannot afford to buy our materials for printing, we will not be able to continue to run as a business. So we're praying that government looks into this as soon as possible and does something, brings out measures to contain this while they still can.
Nigeria's economy depends largely on earnings from oil exports. But since the outbreak of coronavirus, global demand for oil has dropped and prices are at record lows. This has dealt a big blow to Nigeria's currency, the naira. The government has had to rely on spending its foreign reserves to sustain the economy. The Central Bank of Nigeria says it may soon be forced to devalue the naira before the country exhausts its reserves. Experts say a devaluation of the naira may spell doom for the country's economy.
I don't think Naira should be devalued in any way. Nigeria is not an exporting country. Nigeria is a net importer of manufactured goods. People will import anyway, and when they import, they will still sell to the population, and this will lead to inflation. It doesn't make sense. I don't think government should follow that path. CBN should not yield to the pressure.
The central bank has announced a $2.7 billion intervention fund to support various sectors of the economy, including small and medium-scale enterprises. But experts say the government will need to take drastic steps in order to cushion the effect of these tough economic times.
There are three things we could do. First of all is to raise interest rates and for CBN to intervene. 50% of the CBN to intervene, raise interest rates so that we are covered on short term. On medium term, we need to do fiscal adjustment. Fiscal adjustment in the sense that monies were actually going to subsidy. There's no need for subsidy again because global oil prices is down. Take that money, use it to support what is coming from foreign reserve so that Naira is further protected. Long term is diversification.
President Muhammadu Buhari has stressed that his administration would explore all alternatives to protect the country's economy from slipping into a recession.
The hope is that measures taken by the government and the central bank will help shield Nigeria's economy from recession while the world battles to contain the spread of coronavirus. But with no end in sight to the crisis, interventions may not be able to protect citizens and businesses from an economic crunch. Phil Ihaza, CGTN, Abuja.
Africa's largest mobile operator has cut its data costs to help thousands of people that have been told to work from home. Most countries affected by the coronavirus have implemented safety measures and asked all companies to allow their staff to work from home. MTN says it will slash its data prices by 50% to accommodate those that are setting up remote offices. Sumitra Naidu reports.
MTN has amplified its monitoring of critical infrastructure to ensure there's enough network availability for all of its customers. It wants to ensure sufficient capacity to accommodate the increased work-from-home traffic.
We are working on new offers to make sure that whether you are a small businessman or you are a large enterprise or whether you are just a hustler on the corner, you actually get more. So we are making our products more affordable. So in the coming weeks, we're going to be launching even more interventions. I think the president was very clear that those who can help, they need to step forward. So we are basically preferring to work with the state, to work with our partners, to work for our customers, and to even work with the regulators. The country needs more connectivity than ever if you are faced with a situation like we have today.
The mobile operator is also committed to support distance learning as schools remain closed. Access to some e-learning platforms are now free to use.
As we're faced with this unfortunate disease, I see an opportunity for us to be able to bridge the divide by making sure that we utilize these cheaper services in order to provide virtual offices to people at home. It doesn't matter if we have COVID-19 or not. Our people must still get access to their services.
In addition, MTN has zero-rated its USSD line for reporting possible COVID-19 infections and for other critical information. MTN has also set up 2 free COVID-19 channels for updated news and information.
This biggest drop is at the back of us betting on getting the spectrum, because the spectrum is the oxygen for this sector. From a capacity perspective, we'll run out of capacity. So you can't have a situation where you've got so much demand, not enough capacity, and then you basically compromise the quality of service. So we are confident that the minister, ICASA, operators, the government, in basically releasing the high demand spectrum for both the 4G and 5G.
Other private sector companies are also coming on board to assist during this time. Sumitra Naidu, CGTN, Johannesburg, South Africa.
In Uganda, telecom operators have joined the fight against COVID-19. Mobile telecom company MTN Uganda has scrapped charges on mobile money transactions. The idea is to reduce the risk of spreading coronavirus through cash transactions. Transactions of up to $10 will not attract any charge. The mobile telecom operator has also introduced a special data package to allow its subscribers to work from home. Uganda confirmed its first COVID-19 case on Sunday, and now the country is taking all necessary steps to manage the impact.
One of the ways that the virus can potentially spread is by touching banknotes, touching the money going from one hand to the other has been identified as a major cause of transmitting the virus. So following examples from neighboring countries, we strongly feel that making P2P, person to person, you want to send money to another person, making it free of charge should help us in the fight against spreading the virus. Everybody in the corporate world will try to encourage their staff to work from home. The social distance that we have been encouraged to respect can be easily achieved by encouraging working from home. So to that extent, we have launched a special data bundle. The volume is 1 GB. It's for 2,000 shilling only, 2,000 shilling for 1 GB of data. and you use it from 9 to 5. Why 9 to 5? Well, it's because those are the working hours.
And still in Ethiopia, the demand for lemon, ginger and garlic has risen significantly since the start of the coronavirus pandemic. The three ingredients are a component of a traditional drink called dawa. It is believed to help boost the immune system and even cure colds. CGTN's Tulisha Balala has more.
This is Atikilt Terra Market in Addis Ababa. The demand and price for lemon, ginger and garlic have risen here since the outbreak of the coronavirus pandemic. The three ingredients are used to make the traditional dawa drink.
For sure, this will help me. This is naturally rich in vitamin C and full of natural herbs like lemon, ginger, garlic and honey, and seasoning flavors in addition to these natural herbs. I often use it to recover from the flu, and by the same token, it will certainly help me fight corona as well.
Shoppers at this vegetable market fill their bags with these ingredients. Amid the fears of coronavirus, some customers are comfortable with the new prices, while some are not.
You know why they've hiked the price? It's after the outbreak of corona here. For example, garlic is nearly $5 per kilo. It is right here, you can check. It used to be just $1.80. Lemon was $1.50. Today I bought a kilo for close to $5.
A kilo of lemons costs $4. But I don't mind spending even more because it's for my health. Your health is more important than anything. I came here to buy lemon and garlic because the talk of the price is over-exaggerated in my area. But it's not that much. It's an okay price.
Sellers, however, say they are serving the public by providing produce needed for medical purposes.
You won't see a lemon seller now because they are being hunted and arrested because of hiking prices. But you shouldn't blame them because the wholesalers have increased the prices too. We are not bothered only about today. We also want to sustain our business in the future. We are trying to help the public because these are wanted for medicinal purposes. Look at me, for example. I'm protecting myself by inserting garlic in one side of my nose and ginger in the other. We didn't increase the price too much. It is just a bit.
Africa has now reported more than 1,000 cases of coronavirus. A growing number of African countries are increasing restrictive measures to try halt the spread of the virus. With a hot drink made from lemon, ginger and garlic, Ethiopians are just doing what they can to head off any flu symptoms. Tuli Shabalala, CGTN.
The Egyptian government has reduced its workforce by nearly 50%, and the private sector are quickly shifting to a work-from-home policy. One firm in Egypt is saying productivity has surprisingly increased after COVID-19. More on that Egyptian work-from-home experience with CGTN's Adel Makroy.
Rania Youssef is a human resources manager at a marketing agency. Her workplace is cozy, where peers used to sit closely to complete their tasks. But lately, she's been self-isolating herself as fears of COVID-19 grow.
I did not want to stay at home. We have wonderful workforce habits that we love. We have breakfast together every day. Staying at home is boring. Right now, we have nothing to do but work.
All her meetings with colleagues and clients are now online. But contrary to her expectations, she says their team's efficiency has increased.
We only have two options, either eat or work. No one wants to gain weight, so all what we do is keep ourselves busy with work. We are actually working more hours than we did in the company. Our office hours started at 10 in the morning. Now people check in at 9. Some of us work until 10:30 at night.
Like many of the millions of Egyptians who are now staying at home, Rania is not enjoying herself.
I am not happy with this lifestyle. I feel imprisoned. Even when we want to buy something, we order it at home and keep spraying disinfectants. The idea that you are always worried is tiring. I hope this crisis passes soon and life goes back to normal.
Rania's company has initially set 2 weeks for the work-from-home phase. their company might extend if the risk of the viral infection persists. Adil Mahroui, CGTN, Cairo.
Let's now take a look at your sports news. Here's what's ahead. We meet a trio of Egyptian brothers aiming to leave their mark in France.